and welcome back to Actual English, everyone. I'm Jennifer Clyde. It's time for lesson 237, and today's topic is passports and visas. Of course, we need our passport and visa to travel. Definitely our passport. Some countries you may not need a visa to enter, but of course it's always safe to make sure if you need a visa to enter a certain country or not before you travel. Passports. You may have a passport, but when was the last time you checked the expiration date or the expiry date printed on your passport? My last vacation, I took my most recent vacation a couple of months ago, and I hadn't checked my passport. I hadn't checked the expiry date on my passport, and when I did, oh my goodness, it was just about to expire. So I quickly ran to the embassy and, of course, got it renewed. So I wasn't in trouble, but sometimes people do end up with an expired passport, and it's too late. You already have your tickets, you've made all reservations, hotel reservations, everything else. But without a passport, a valid passport that is, you cannot travel. So it's something you always need to pay attention to. Let's talk about passports and visas today. Let's begin with Actual Talk.
Kelly, I need to pick your brain. I'm going away to London, as you know, and my passport, I think it has just under a year left. And I was made aware recently that if your passport only has a certain amount of time left, then some countries won't even let you travel there.
Actually, it's 6 months.
Oh, okay. All right, I think I'm safe. I think it's about 10 months left.
But thank you for bringing that up because I have to get on renewing mine. And it actually is a lengthy and complicated process, I find.
Yeah, I think it's the same with the British one as well. You need someone to sign the back of a photo who's a certain job position or a position in society.
A doctor,
it's hard to find, right?
a judge, government worker, someone.
How many of those people do you know?
Honestly, well, I know my doctor, but I had a really difficult time the first time, and I'm glad that I think it's 5 years that they last. And
oh, really?
The idea is they figure that every 5 years you'll change. So in that time, you'll look the way that you do, and then 5 years passes and magically you get older. I'm not sure. But it's difficult. You have to find people to claim that they know you well.
Yeah.
They sign their name saying this person is who they say they are. And I found it rather complicated, tiring.
I mean, when I was traveling and I was little, I didn't think about passport expiry dates and things like that.
No.
But my first teenage holiday without my parents, 10 of us went, and one of them, his passport had already expired.
Oh, great.
And he was left crying at the airport. So
Are you serious?
since then, I've checked my passport thoroughly before going,
Oh, I hope you didn't leave him there.
Well, we did. There were 9 others who wanted to have a good time, so it taught him a lesson as well.
Well, now I know what kind of teenager you were. Well, anyhow, I think that you'll be fine, so no worries.
Okay.
Just enjoy your trip.
Just got to take the passport to the airport. Okay.
Yes.
Welcome back, everyone. Did you enjoy the conversation? Now, Peter and Kelly were talking about passports and visas. A perfect topic for Peter, of course, or Peter and Kelly, because he's planning on going on a vacation. He's planning to travel, so of course, he is going to need a valid passport and visa as well. So let's take a look in detail. Here we go. Peter begins by saying, Kelly, I need to pick your brain. Okay, and then he says, I'm going away to London and my passport has just under a year left. Now, I have read one more sentence for you to give you an idea of what he is talking about. But let's take a look at the first sentence first. Okay, he says, Kelly, I need to pick your brain. I need to pick your brain. What does that mean? Pick someone's brain means to talk to somebody to find out about something. Okay, so you're talking to someone for information. In other words, you're asking somebody for information about what they know. So he's saying, Kelly, I need to ask you a few questions. I need you to tell me a few things. I need to pick your brain. I'm going away to London and my passport has just under a year left. Okay, so here we're talking about the expiry date. Okay, so if you say I have just under a year left, meaning that the expiration date printed on your passport is perhaps a year from now. Okay, so he's saying he doesn't have that much time left. I believe when they issue you a passport or when you get it renewed, I think they give you maybe 8 to 10 years. I guess it depends on the country, but you may have traveled for 5 years, 6 years, and when you suddenly take a look at your passport, well, the expiry date may be sometime very soon. So that's what he is talking about. My passport has just under a year left. It will expire in less than a year, is what he's saying. Here we go. He says, I was made aware recently, meaning I found out recently, that if your passport only has a certain amount of time left meaning remaining, then some countries won't even let you travel there. Meaning some countries will not let you enter into their country. So it really depends on how much time, okay, you have left on your passport. That's what he's talking about, certain amount of time left, okay? It really depends on that. Kelly says, actually it's 6 months. I see. So always make sure that your expiry date is at least 6 months later, okay? And here we go. Peter says, oh, okay, well, I think I'm safe. He's safe, why? Because he has about a year left. I think it's about 10 months left, I see. Okay, a little under a year, which means a little less than a year. So he's saying, I think mine's about, I have about 10 months left. So he's safe. He's okay to travel. And Kelly says, but thank you for bringing that up, because I have to get on renewing mine. Let's take a look at that first sentence. She thanks Peter for something. She is thanking Peter for bringing that up, meaning bringing the subject of passports and visas up. But here, to bring something up means to mention something, to talk about something. In other words, she's saying, hey, Peter, thank you for talking about passports and visas. Thank you for bringing that topic up. Why? Because I have to get on renewing mine. You can also say I have to renew mine as well. So she's talking about having to renew her passport. Renew means to restore, okay, or replenish. Renew, for example, you can renew your passport, or you have to renew your passport if you don't have much time left. If it's going to expire in 6 months, you have to run over there to get it renewed, okay? And if you do, you'll get a new passport. So she says, and it actually is a lengthy and complicated process, I find, in Canada. So in Canada, the whole process of renewing your passport is lengthy and complicated. We know what complicated means. It's very complex. It's not easy. There are many steps to it. But what is lengthy? If you say that something is lengthy, you are saying that it is too long, very long, or even time-consuming, meaning it takes a long time. So she says once again, it's actually a lengthy, meaning time-consuming, a very long and complicated process in Canada to get your passport renewed. Peter says, yeah, I think it's the same with the British one, okay? So it is in the British passport. You need someone to sign the back of a photo. You have to sign the back of a photo. That's a certain job position or a position in society. Now we're talking about somebody. You need to have a photo of yours signed on the back side of your photo by someone that has a certain job position or a position in society. So we're not just talking about a friend, but we're talking about a certain job position or position in society. It's hard to find, he says. Now, what does he mean by a certain job position or position in society? Well, here we go. Kelly says exactly. A person like a doctor, a judge, a government worker, somebody that has a certain job position needs to sign the back of the photo. And so Peter says, how many of those people do you know? Those people meaning people like doctors or judges or government workers and so on. How many of these kinds of people do you know? Kelly says, honestly, well, she says, I know my doctor. Okay, so that's one person she knows. He could possibly sign the back of her photo for her. But I had a really difficult time the first time she had to find somebody. And then she says, and I think it's 5 years that they last. Okay, it's good for 5 years, for example. So if you get somebody to sign the back of your photo, you can use that photo for 5 years. That's why she is saying, I think it's 5 years that they last. Okay, they're valid for 5 years. You can use it for 5 years. And Peter says, oh, really? Just 5 years? Here we go. Kelly explains, the idea is they figure that every 5 years you'll change. Now, figure here is used in the verb form, not the noun form. Figure in the noun form could mean letters, numbers, for example. Numbers, not letters, numbers. But when you use it in the verb form, it means to calculate, guess, or even understand. So she's saying the idea is they understand, they think that every 5 years you'll change, okay? We're talking about appearance. Appearance-wise, people will look different 5 years later. That is why they need somebody to sign the back of a photo every 5 years. So in that time, you'll look the way that you do. You look the way that you do right now. And then 5 years passes. So 5 years later, and magically, you get older. Now, the reason why she's saying I'm not sure is because she doesn't really understand the concept of why you have to have a photo signed every 5 years. She doesn't agree that people totally change appearance-wise 5 years or every 5 years, okay? But she's explaining to us why certain places ask for photos to be signed every 5 years. But it's difficult, she says. You have to find people to claim that they know you well. We're talking about claim. To claim means to demand as right, or to be due, for example. Or simply put, it can also mean to prove, okay? So you have to find people to prove, okay? People that will say, okay, this is definite, okay? That they know you well. They sign their name saying this person is who they say they are. Meaning, if this person says, her name is Jennifer Clyde, okay, I'll sign it. Yes, as she says, her name is Jennifer Clyde. So you have to find a person or people to claim, to prove that that information is true. And then she says, and I found that rather complicated, tiring and complicated. That's right. It's not a very simple process. Here we go. Peter says, yeah, when I was traveling, I didn't think about passport expiry dates. Passport expiry dates. This word is pronounced two ways. We'll go over the pronunciation later on in actual expressions, but expiry means an end or completion of something. So, I didn't think about passport expiry dates. He's talking about expiration dates. If you pass the expiry date, the passport is no longer valid, meaning you cannot use it anymore. But my first teenage holiday, this was when he was a teenager, without my parents. 10 of us, okay? 10 of us meaning him and 9 of his friends went, and one of his friends, his passport had already expired, okay? So it was past the expiry date, okay? The expiration date had already passed. In that case, you can say his passport expired. So one of his friends, one of his 9 friends, his passport had already expired. It was no good. He couldn't travel. So Kelly says, oh, great. Great meaning what? Wonderful. No, in this case, she's saying, oh, great. She's kind of being sarcastic. Great meaning the opposite. Oh, that is terrible. Okay? When you listen once again to the conversation, listen carefully to how Kelly says, oh, great. She doesn't say, oh, great. She says, oh, great. Okay? Moving on. Now, Peter explains, he was left crying at the airport. He was left crying, meaning all of the other friends left on that vacation. Okay, they took off, but one of his friends, the one that had a passport that had already expired, was left behind. He stayed at the airport crying because he couldn't go. He says, so ever since then, since that incident, I have checked my passport thoroughly before going, meaning before traveling anywhere. Thoroughly means completely, perfectly. Okay, so he's saying he carefully checked his passport every single time ever since that incident. Okay, moving on. Kelly says, oh, I hope you didn't leave him there. Leave his friend at the airport. But he says, well, we did. We did leave him at the airport. There were 9 others who wanted to have a good time. So it taught him a lesson as well. Teach someone a lesson means to show that something should not be done. Okay? I can say, I learned my lesson. It means I have learned that something shouldn't be done, or I have learned that I shouldn't do this or make the same mistake again. You are learning a lesson. You're learning that something is right or wrong. Okay? So it taught him a lesson as well. Meaning, it taught him a lesson. He knows now by making that mistake that he should always check the expiry date on his passport. That's what he's saying. Moving on, Kelly says, well, anyhow, I think that you'll be fine. Because they were talking about what? His passport and the expiry date. He has about 10 months left, right? So she says, so no worries, meaning don't worry. No worries. No reason to worry. Just enjoy your trip. Here we go. Peter says, I've just got to take the passport to the airport, meaning he should remember to take his passport with him to the airport when he travels. I have once left my passport behind at home when I went to the airport. Oh, it was a disaster, but luckily I was able to have somebody send my passport to me in time, just in time, so I was able to leave. But sometimes people leave their passports behind and forget to take their passports to the airport, and they end up having to cancel their trip. Hope that doesn't happen to you. Let's take a listen to the conversation one more time.
Kelly, I need to pick your brain. I'm going away to London, as you know, and my passport, I think it has just under a year left. And I was made aware recently that if your passport only has a certain amount of time left, then some countries won't even let you travel there.
Actually, it's 6 months.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
I think I'm safe. I think it's about
You'll
10
be okay.
months left.
But thank you for bringing that up, because I have to get on renewing mine. And it actually is a lengthy and complicated process, I find.
Yeah, I think it's the same with the British one as well. You need someone to sign the back of a photo who's a certain job position or a position in society.
A doctor,
it's hard to find, right?
a judge, government worker, someone.
How many of those people do you know?
Honestly, well, I know my doctor, but I had a really difficult time the first time, and I'm glad that I think it's 5 years that they last. And
Oh, really?
the idea is they figure that every 5 years you'll change. So in that time, you'll look the way that you do, and then 5 years passes and magically you get older. I'm not sure. But it's difficult. You have to find people to claim that they know you well.
Yeah.
They sign their name saying this person is who they say they are. And I found it rather complicated, tiring.
I mean, when I was traveling and I was little, I didn't think about passport expiry dates and things like that.
No.
But my first teenage holiday without my parents, 10 of us went, and one of them his passport had already expired.
Oh, great.
And he was left crying at the airport. So
you
ever
serious?
since then, I've checked my passport thoroughly before going, yeah.
Oh, I hope you didn't leave him there.
Well, we did. There were 9 others who wanted to have a good time, so it taught him a lesson as well.
Well, now I know what kind of teenager you were. Well, anyhow, I think that you'll be fine, so no worries.
Okay.
Just enjoy your trip.
Just got to take the passport to the airport. Okay.
Yes.
Here we go with actual expressions, everyone. Let's check out the first word, renew. Renew. As you see, there are 2 ways of pronouncing it, renew or renew. Renew, 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 renew. It means to extend, okay? What about lengthy? I told you it's time-consuming, so lengthy could also mean tedious, complicated. Figure, used in the verb form, everyone. Stress goes right there. Figure means to understand, decide, or even to think. Claim, also a verb, means to declare or prove, as I mentioned. Moving on, expiry or expiry. Here we go. I say expiry, okay? You can also say expiry. Let's try this one first. Expiry, expiry. Expiry date or expiry, expiry. One more time, expiry, expiry date. We're talking about termination, completion. Thoroughly is what? Thoroughly or thoroughly, or thoroughly, okay? Slight difference. Practice that on your own. It means completely or even perfectly. Let's now move on to our patterns then. Here we go. Pick someone's brain or pick someone's brains, okay? Imagine you have something very sharp and you are picking somebody else's brain. Why? You're poking it, picking it. You're trying to get information from that person. So to pick someone's brain means to talk to somebody to get information about something. Here we go. I spent hours trying to pick my sister's brain for ideas to use in my presentation. So you're saying I spent hours talking to my sister, trying to get some information from her about ideas to use in my presentation. Got it? Okay. Bring something up. We're not talking about lifting something. Bring something up could also mean to mention, to talk about something. Don't bring it up in front of mom and dad. Okay. In front of mom and dad. Maybe you did something wrong and you know you'll be in trouble if your mom and dad find out. So you can say, hey, shh, it's a secret from mom and dad. Don't bring it up in front of mom and dad. Don't talk about it in front of mom and dad. Moving on to our final one, teach someone a lesson. You can punish someone so that they don't make the same mistake again. Or to teach someone a lesson can also mean to tell somebody what should not be done. So here we go. That taught me a lesson. I'll never make the same mistake again. That refers to a mistake that you made, okay? That taught me a lesson. That incident taught me a lesson. I'll never make the same mistake again, okay? So we often learn from our mistakes, right? So yes, at times, things or people will teach us a lesson from now and then. Okay, everyone, let's wrap it up. That's all for today's actual expressions.
If you're traveling overseas, you need a passport. So a passport is a little book with your picture in it that shows that you are a citizen of the country you're coming from. And basically, you can keep a documentation of where you've been. So when you go to a country, they'll stamp your passport and say, yes, you can enter. But for some countries, you need a visa if you want to enter. There are agreements between certain countries where you don't need a visa to travel in between them, but you still need your passport, obviously. But with other countries, you would need a visa. A visa is issued by the State Department or other kind of, state-controlled agency. And when you have that visa, it will say that you can stay for a specific amount of time and what kinds of activities you can do in the country you're visiting. In the case where you want to live in another country, you also need a different type of visa. So a lot of people who live in Korea who are not from Korea have special visas to live here.
Yes, Eugene has mentioned that you do need a passport to travel to other countries. Obviously, yes. So let's take a look at the actual story response in detail. A passport is a little book with your picture that shows that you are a citizen of the country you are coming from, or a citizen of the country you were born in, perhaps. So it's a little book with a photo of you, and you can also see the citizen of the country you're from. You can keep documentation, meaning keep a record of where you have been. Okay? It's all printed or stamped in your passport. They will stamp your passport. We're talking about documentation, okay? Maybe they will stamp the dates, the locations. You get stamps every time you open up your passport and hand it to the people there, right? So we're talking about stamping your passport. People will stamp it. And finally, for some countries, not all, but for some countries, you need a visa if you want to enter. Meaning, if you want to go to a certain country, some countries, yes, it is a must that you have a visa to enter those countries. That is a wrap for today's actual story, everyone. Job well done.
If you're traveling overseas, you need a passport. So a passport is a little book with your picture in it that shows that you are a citizen of the country you're coming from. And basically, you can keep a documentation of where you've been. So when you go to a country, they'll stamp your passport and say, yes, you can enter. But for some countries, you need a visa if you want to enter. There are agreements between certain countries where you don't need a visa to travel in between them, but you still need your passport, obviously. But with other countries, you would need a visa. A visa is issued by the State Department or other kind of, state-controlled agency. And when you have that visa, it will say that you can stay for a specific amount of time and what kinds of activities you can do in the country you're visiting. In the case where you want to live in another country, you also need a different type of visa. So a lot of people who live in Korea who are not from Korea have special visas to live here.
Did you have fun today, everyone? I hope the answer is a yes. I hope that you had fun and also learned a lot about talking about passports and visas. So next time I'll be joining you back with another airport-related topic. Imagine me talking about people being scanned. There are pat-downs, for example. Some people think it's a hassle to take off their shoes, their jackets. If you wear a lot of jewelry, you might have to take your jewelry off as well. We're going to be talking about airport security next time. So that is our topic for our next lesson. In the meantime, come to our homepage, everyone. Come on over to www.ebse.co.kr and look for Actual English with Jennifer. On our message board, read the messages posted up by our viewers, and if you want to add anything, feel more than free to do so. Okay, that is all for today, everyone. Thanks for joining me. I'll catch you again next time. Until then, take care and bye for now.